Switching gears, a major development in the Michigan high school shooting case. The parents of the alleged shooter, Ethan Crumbley, have been charged with involuntary manslaughter.
Now, this is really interesting. Joining us now to talk about that, distinguished university professor at Touro College, Thane Rosenbaum. So, Thane, this struck us as a pretty big deal. I can't recall another incident similar to this. As a result of this school shooting, this mass shooting, there were 4 teenagers ultimately killed, others injured, including a teacher, but the parents being charged as well.
Heather, it's actually unprecedented. You're quite right. There's only been 4 instances in this country where parents were held criminally responsible, punished for a child using a weapon either on themselves or another child, but never before in a mass shooting at a school or a mass shooting anywhere. Remember, our country, we're always focused on the proximate cause.
Hold on one second, Thane. I want you to continue that thought, but we are getting some breaking news just as we're doing this story. And this is coming from the Detroit News there in Oakland County, reporting that the parents that we're talking about they're on the run.
Yeah. And
James and Jennifer Crumbley.
And to fill in, to connect a couple dots, the way this appeared is it looked like the parents went out and bought him a gun, or if it wasn't for him specifically, certainly gave him access to it. Then at school, he had drawn some things apparently that were quite concerning, including a gun and lots of blood. And when the school officials called the parents to the school and said, we think maybe you better take him home.
That day of the shooting.
They said, no, we're not going to take him home.
Yeah.
He then proceeded to apparently take the gun out of his backpack and shoot his fellow classmates.
So now the Oakland County Fugitive Apprehension Team is searching for them. They stopped responding to their attorney. That is according to authorities. The attorney had assured them, this is according to the Oakland County Undersheriff, the attorney had assured them that if they had a decision to charge the parents and announced it, that she would then, the attorney, be able to present them for arrest. But now the parents no longer responding to their attorney, on the run.
Well, again, first of all, Bob, it's worse than you described it, because they didn't check the backpack at the very moment that the school and the parents were sitting there. So that not only were the parents confronted with these images, but they didn't say, you know what, we just bought him a Christmas present that could be very part of the reason for these drawings. So where is that gun? And they didn't say anything. And then at one point, the mother sent a text mockingly when they found that he had been searching for ammunition online. And she said, I'm not mad at you. I just make sure you don't get caught, right? So this is why the prosecuting attorney is taking the position this is an egregious act of criminal negligence of the parents who fail to, in their exercise of care, to show a duty to their community, to supervise their child, especially knowing that there is an unlocked and loaded weapon in the house, not inspect the backpack, not warn the school. And Heather, the fact that they're on the run now makes you realize that they finally realized that they are being held. These are very serious charges. And unlike most parents that would normally not be held criminally responsible, they are being held criminally responsible.
Let's listen to the Oakland County prosecutor, Karen McDonald, what she said about gun owners specifically having responsibility. Listen.
With the right of owning a gun comes responsibility. And the responsibility of a gun owner is to securely store that weapon and to keep it out of the hands of somebody who could kill people. It's tragic that this is almost, we're desensitized to this. And at some point, we have to say it's enough. And at some point, we have to say to people who do not responsibly possess a weapon that you're going to be held accountable.
And apparently, Thane, the access to the gun itself was only part of the story. So I don't want people to think this is just about getting the gun. This was about multiple signs and multiple opportunities to do something to stop what he seemed to be expressing in some fashion.
This is really a failure to supervise, a failure of a duty to supervise your child. It's not illegal for a minor to fire a gun at a shooting range with their parents next to you. Remember, Michigan also does not have child access prevention laws. They don't have gun storage safety laws, which only, in my mind, only heightens the responsibility of the parents that says we don't actually have a legal responsibility to keep it unloaded and locked, but we really have a bigger responsibility to make sure that it never is in your possession without our supervision. And one last thing I'd like to say about this district attorney. I thought that unlike most DAs that respond, they speak as if they're coldly reading a list of charges. This woman really expressed herself as a mother, as a parent, about the horror of this crime. And I thought that was very unusual that she played a role as both the district attorney and a mother who understands the horror of this neglect.
What does this mean for other cases, though, Thane, given that this would set a precedent? And do you have to specifically look at the fact that these are parents of a 15-year-old child, or do you see down the road this possibly opening the door for other people to be facing charges based on someone else's actions?
Well, Heather, you're raising a good point. Note that the prosecuting attorney is not bringing an action against the school. The school had the drawings. The school knew of social media postings.
Yeah,
they said to the parents, you need to get him counseling. They said to them, he needs counseling. And when they said, the parents said, well, we'll leave him in school, they could have said, no, you're not. Not today. Today, you have to take him home.
I think they tried to do that. I think the school tried to say we need a 48-hour cooling off period, according to what the prosecutor was saying. But
then parents, I mean, you always want to look for the best in your child and offer excuses for your child. Yes. And I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it.
Well,
I mean, it's hard.
I think, again, what's happening here that's unprecedented, which is the core of Heather's point, is in this country, we really hold you responsible for your overt acts, your acts, not the acts of your children or your friends or your family. It's a core principle of our constitutional democracy. So this is unusual. Now, because this is a negligence case, this is an intentional murder. This is saying you failed to supervise and provide a duty of care to the community by essentially letting a loaded weapon out into the world. Your son was in no position to have possession of a gun ever.
Was someone who was showing the signs that he may be violent. But let me ask you this. You make the argument that they, as parents, are being negligent in controlling their child, yet you're trying a 15-year-old as an adult. And I'm kind of curious how those jive.
Good point, Bob. You're getting one side and not getting the other. If the child is not being treated as a child, but treated as an adult. Remember, in Michigan, based on the severity of the crime, it's possible to charge a minor as an adult. But again, this is a criminal negligence case against the parents. They're not holding them directly responsible, right? They're basically saying that they were in, I mean, look, you can imagine a situation where a landlord with an adult in the house is aware of these stories and they don't come forward. That goes to Heather's point. Where would it stop, right? What if the landlord said, you know, my tenant is a little creepy and I think I saw him with a gun and I'm going to report him. I think he should get arrested. A lot of Americans would see that as an infringement on personal liberty if your landlord could get you arrested because you have suspicious behavior. This is just very different. You're right. He's being charged as an adult, but the parents still have a responsibility, a duty to care over their child until he reaches majority.
And apparently on the run.
Yeah, and I'm continuing to look and see if there are any updates. But yeah, at this point, they're still on the run. There was a 4 p.m. Arraignment that was scheduled for today. We'll see what happens.
All right. Thane, thank you so much for educating us on it.
Anytime.